And it's Ken Kreitzer for Canvas Media. We're in Washington, D.C. today at the Association of the U.S. Army National Conference, huge trade exhibit hall show, and have a chance to talk to Major General Michelle Rose. And General Rose, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
I know you're based down in Huntsville, you live in Virginia. Tell us a little bit about your responsibilities in the Army.
So I am actually an Army National Guardsman. And, it's a total Army, but we're made up of active duty, National Guard, and Reserve. And my position at AMC is the Assistant Deputy Commanding General for National Guard. And we also have the Assistant Deputy Commanding General for the Reserves. So we're very, very active at AMC, Army Material Command, for both the Army Guard and the Army Reserves.
Very good. Tell us a little bit about National Guard does so many important missions in the United States. We work with the New York National Guard. They're always going out to natural emergencies. They'll also send a plane down to Antarctica. Tell us about some of the roles of the National Guard.
Yeah, so just recently, obviously, the roles have been very much on the news with the Hurricane Helene and Milton relief and with rescues. But that's not just what the National Guard does. Obviously, we're not only taking care of our state's responsibilities and making sure that we're there available for our governors in disaster, but we also are involved with the Army in deployments all over the world, and we support also our homeland. So we're the first part of defense and homeland defense, the Army National Guard. Of course, the National Guard is made up of the Air Force too, so we have Air National Guard and Army. But obviously, today, here this week, we're talking about the Army here at the USA.
Very good. And talk a little bit about the reserve component of the Army. Obviously, the ROTC programs generate reserve officers. My father was a reserve officer in his career in the Army. What does that involve? What are some of the opportunities?
Yeah, so I'm actually a product of ROTC myself. Although I did go on active duty right out of college, I was an engineer. Wasn't doing anything with engineering in the Army, and I decided to take that career and go into the engineering field, and then join the National Guard at that point. But the Army ROTC, whether it's Army ROTC or direct commission or even any of your military schools, there's always a large component of those classes that is directly into the reserves. Because our reserve is, the Army Guard is 325,000 strong, and so we're a big part of the Army. In fact, just when you talk about logistics, we're 80% of the force is in logistics or in the reserve component. And of course, the Army Guard is also the reserve for the combat arms for the Army. And at 325,000 strong, we make up a big part of what we call the total Army, and making sure that we are ready and there for the Army when they need us.
National Guard citizen soldiers taking on an Army responsibility part-time. Great to see. Tell us a little bit about your career. Where did you start and join the Army?
Okay, well, I joined the Army by starting off in college, and I was in the Army ROTC program at North Carolina State University. And then I did 4 years of active duty, deployed to both Desert Shield, Storm, as well as Operation Restore Hope. And then I left the active Army, not because I didn't like it, just because I had an engineering degree and I really wanted to put that to use. And I missed it. And after about 9 months out of the Army, I missed it, and literally looked up the yellow pages and said, where's the closest Army National Guard unit to where I live? Called them up, and they said, hey, can you be here tomorrow? And I was there. So that was 31 years ago. Been in 35 years in the Army. But so I've been pretty much a career logistician, but I do have my civilian job. So my civilian job is also a Department of the Army civilian, as that engineer that I always wanted to be, and actually work at TRADOC, was a training and doctrine command as a system safety engineer. So I've been able to do both. I've been able to do both my civilian career and continue with my military service in the National Guard.
That's terrific. We hear so much about the importance of logistics General Darrell Williams was talking about the Army in Europe being forward and needing to be supplied in order to fight. What are some of the elements of logistics that you're involved with and are really vital to supporting the Army?
Well, so the Army's logistics reside primarily, about 80% of our capability resides in the Army Reserve component. So that's both Army Reserves and Army National Guard. So for logistics, you can't do anything at the strategic level, operational or tactical level, without your reserve component. And of course, that's also been brought out in both our global war on terror and now, and everything we're doing strategically in looking at where our next fight is going to be. We're heavily involved in helping the Army make sure that we're ready with sustainment units, that we're trained, that we have properly trained units to be able to do the sustainment piece. And also, we're heavily involved in the force structure to make sure we've got the right force structure set up between the active Army and the reserve component so that when something happens, we can be there. It's not, the old days of mobilizing for 6 months are gone. We have to be there and we have to be ready to go. And so we're combat ready to go in the logistics field and making sure that we're trained, ready to do what we have to do.
Well, Army Secretary Christine Wilmuth was talking yesterday about recruiting, trying to increase the number of soldiers. Obviously, many soldiers will have the opportunity to serve in the National Guard or reserves after a period of active duty. What are some of the opportunities that you like to suggest to young Americans that they should consider one of the Army organizations?
So, I'll put a pitch in here for the Army Guard. The Army Guard is a great organization to join, especially if you're looking for a higher calling, because not only are you joining the Army and you're doing all the great things that we have in the Army out there, but you're also joining the National Guard, which means you help support your community, especially in times of need. And we're we do everything that the Army does, but we sort of have that extra bump because we're able to really be down at the community level. And the Army National Guard is spread throughout our 54 states and territories. And then, of course, we also have a lot of great programs within the Army National Guard that ties us back with industry. And because we're citizen soldiers, we all have jobs outside the military for the most part. And so I think it brings a more diversified, a higher level soldier when you do a deployment, because you got a soldier that, like in myself, that's not only a logistics officer but also an engineer, and so I kind of bring two things to the fight. And so that's what makes the National Guard and the Army Reserve such a great opportunity for the Gen Z. And then we're also looking at Gen 8 right now. Those are kids who are now 11 years old, and we need to find out what it is that they want out of military service, and we really bring an opportunity for them to really do a higher calling. And so that's sort of the message we would have. We had a great year recruiting this year. We got some higher goals we've set for the next couple of years in the Army Guard as well as the Army, and we'll just keep at it. But really, being able to have that community-based recruiting has been huge for the National Guard.
Oh, certainly. And you were a graduate from, as you said, North Carolina State ROTC. We work with a couple of ROTC units, one of my alma mater, Providence College, a couple of others. What are some of the value and the leadership skills that a college student learns by participating in Army ROTC?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of it, we always talk about that wandering kid through college, not really knowing what you want to do the rest of your life. And I tell you, just going into any of the ROTC programs, doesn't have to be the Army, really brings that discipline to what kids really want, which is they want to serve at a higher calling, but they also, I have kids that are that generation that are in college now, and although they know what they want to do, they aren't exactly sure after they get that degree if that's really what they want to do. And the nice thing about the military is there's such a plethora of things that they can do outside of just that degree that they're in. And so that's where Army ROTC really is brings to the table. And we do look at kids, and kids are assessed in the Army in both the reserve component and active duty. And of course, there's opportunities throughout your career to switch back and forth, which is great.
Yeah, so yeah, final question, Joe Rose. What's a highlight of your service in the Army over the years?
So my highlight was being a battalion commander in Afghanistan. I was able to do the Army mission. Obviously, I was there to support logistics in a very austere environment, living in tents, working in tents, pushing convoys out in very remote areas. But I also got an opportunity to have some civil works that we did in the local community. We did some civil engineering works in the local community, and to really get to know the culture and where we were at, and to bring in the soldiers. They're there ready to do their mission, but they also have that higher calling, and they want to do something else to really help the people that they're there for to help. And that sort of brought it all around. And so for me, the highlight of my career was being a battalion commander in a combat sustainment support battalion in Afghanistan.
How many soldiers are in a battalion that you would have been?
It depends. Of course, I had active duty, Army Reserve, and Army National Guard units all up under me. Could be anywhere between, it just depends on the mission, could be anywhere between 400 to 800, 900 soldiers.
Wow. Well, Major General Michelle Rose, thank you for your service. Great to chat with you here today. And really, we always enjoy our talks with the National Guard. Reserve too, but National Guard has so many important missions, and just singled out for their work on the recent hurricane relief.
Well, thanks for interviewing us, because I think it's really important for everybody to know we're one Army, and we're made up of 3 different components, but we're all one total Army.
Absolutely. Major General Michelle Rose, great to see you here at the Association of the U.S. Army Conference in Washington. And again, thank you for your service, and to those that you serve with. Good to see us. Ken Kreitzer for Cam Vets Media here in Washington, D.C.